In 2021, someone in Hong Kong paid $1.3 million for a parking space. Not a house, not an apartment. A single rectangle of concrete about the size of a small bedroom at a building called Mount Nicholson. Work out the price per square foot, and that parking spot cost more per square foot than almost any home on earth. So you want to own a parking space? Let's take it apart. What people assume is that a parking space is about as passive as real estate gets. No tenants calling about a broken toilet, no one trashing the walls, nothing to renovate, nothing to furnish. You buy the spot. Someone pays you monthly to leave their car in it, and the check just shows up. It's supposed to be the simplest landlord job that exists. Real estate with the actual estate part removed. What's actually happening is that the price of getting in depends entirely on where you're standing, and the range is enormous. In plenty of European cities, you can buy a basic space for somewhere between 5,000 and 20,000 euros. Genuinely one of the cheapest doors into property ownership there is. In New York, a private garage spot averages well over $130,000. Premium spots in Manhattan's core run $300,000 to $1 million. And the new fully robotic spaces, the ones that lower your car into the ground for you, start at $300,000 on their own. And then there's Hong Kong, where parking has become its own speculative asset class entirely, with investors buying and flipping spaces in rapid succession the same way people flip stock. Same product, same purpose, a price difference of 200 times, depending purely on how scarce the ground underneath the city actually is, and in some places, that scarcity isn't even an accident, it's the law. In Japan, you cannot legally register a car in most major cities without first proving to the police that you already have a place to park it. It's called the Garage Act, and it's been on the books since 1962. No parking certificate, no car, which means demand for a parking space isn't just people who want convenience. It's every single car owner in the country by legal requirement before they're even allowed to drive. So back to the pitch. Passive income, low maintenance, growing scarcity. Here's the part that gets buried underneath all of that. The advertised return is not the real return. Spaces get marketed around an 8% yield. Once you actually subtract management fees, small repairs, insurance, and taxes, that 8% quietly becomes 5 to 6% net. Run the real numbers on an $18,000 European space, and you're looking at roughly $965 a year in actual income after costs. A little over 5%. Not the number on the listing that got you interested in the first place. And the costs don't sit still. A building can vote to add security, upgrade the electrical for EV charging, or raise association fees, and none of that requires your permission. It just shows up on the bill. Your income is fixed at whatever the market will pay. Your expenses are not. Then there's the part nobody mentions until you're actually trying to get out. Liquidity. An apartment appeals to almost anyone. Families, couples, investors, renters. A single parking space appeals to a very specific type of buyer who wants a parking space in that exact building, in that exact city, at that exact moment. When it's finally time to sell, you're not entering a big open market. You're waiting for the one person who happens to need precisely what you have. So who's actually getting rich here? Not the person who bought one space and is collecting a few percent a year, hoping resale doesn't become a headache. The real money sits one level up where parking quietly stopped being thousands of small individual owners and started becoming an institutional asset class. In 2026, a company called Metropolis Technologies became the largest parking garage operator in the entire United States by acquiring its biggest competitor in a $1.5 billion deal backed by a private equity firm. Cities have been running their own version of this for years. Chicago leased its parking meters to private investors for 75 years back in 2008, a deal that's been quietly draining the city budget ever since. And in 2026, the city was reportedly reviewing a $2.8 billion buyout proposal just to try to unwind the damage. And in Hong Kong, the same scarcity that produced a $1.3 million parking space also produced a small industry of people who do nothing but buy and resell spaces for a living. Because when land is scarce enough, even the empty rectangles become worth fighting over. Individually, a parking space is one of the smallest real estate purchases a person can make. Collectively, parking has become one of the assets that institutional money is actively consolidating. Because whoever controls enough of the spaces controls the price of something every single car owner eventually needs, whether they own a car by choice or, in some countries, by legal requirement just to be allowed to have one. So here's the whole thing in one line. Owning a parking space really is simpler than owning an apartment, but the yield you were sold shrinks the moment real costs touch it. The exit is harder than the entry, and the real money was never the person who owns one space. It's whoever quietly ends up owning thousands of them, plus every city that already sold away the meters underneath them. So the next time you circle a full parking lot looking for a single open spot, you'll know somewhere on a balance sheet, someone already calculated exactly how much that 15 seconds of searching is worth to them.